Welcome to Tokyo Wave, recorded in a live studio in Harajuku, Japan, with your hosts Aaron and Parker. Alright everyone, welcome to episode 122 of Tokyo Wave. We're your hosts, Aaron Randall
and Parker Allen. Welcome back to Tokyo Wave after a month-long absence, and thank you for listening to our rewinds. We got lots of good comments from our listeners, some of whom had not listened to the original episodes, many of which were originally recorded in 2020 during the happy days of the early pandemic.
That's right.
And some, I guess, listened to them again because they were really great episodes.
Those were a lot of fun, and I'm glad we got to replay them for everyone.
Yeah, we actually have a couple more. So if we have another random absence due to work, you might see another rewind in the feed. So prepare yourself.
Yeah, everyone, Happy New Year. Thank you for continuing to listen to Tokyo Wave. I just got back to Japan from a month-long excursion in America, which was very interesting.
And we're going to be talking about it later. Welcome back, Aaron.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
On Tokyo Wave, we bring you weekly updates from our studio in Harajuku.
Join us in segments featuring this week's top news,
political happenings,
business,
and other random garbage.
To get us started, here are this week's top news highlights.
The United States and Japan unveil plans to strengthen their defense alliance.
Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company considering to build second chip plant in Japan.
Suspected sperm whale that swam into Osaka Bay dies.
This week in Japan. All right, so our top story. U.S. and Japan unveiled plans to strengthen their defense alliance.
The Associated Press has reported that the top national security officials from the United States and Japan unveiled plans on January 11th to strengthen their alliance to help counter threats from North Korea and China, which they called the greatest challenges in the region.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the agreement reflects the two nations' effort to deepen cooperation across all realms, including space, cybersecurity, and emerging technologies.
Blinken, following the meeting at the State Department, said, quote, "It is hard to overstate the importance of the U.S.-Japan alliance for more than 7 decades. It has been the cornerstone of peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific, ensuring the security, the liberty, and prosperity of our people and people across the region."
The two nations are revising their joint defense posture and planning increased military exercises as they confront rising threats from North Korea and increasing aggressiveness from China.
The U.S. and Japanese foreign and defense ministers agreed to adjust the American troop presence on the island of Okinawa. Prior to the meeting, Japan's defense ministry announced it was ready to start construction on an uninhabited island where the two militaries will hold joint military exercises.
Later on January 13th, President Joe Biden and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida issued a joint statement underscoring the importance of the U.S.-Japan relationship.
Kishida, on a week-long trip to visit allies in Europe and North America, signed a defense agreement with British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak on January 11th that strengthens military ties between Japan and the UK, also in response to China's increasing military assertiveness.
Following their talks, Blinken, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, and their Japanese counterparts, Yoshimasa Hayashi and Yasukazu Hamada, condemned China's increasing aggression in the region and said the agreement will provide a strong path to counter that.
Austin noted that the agreement affirms America's ironclad commitment to defend Japan with a full range of capabilities, including nuclear, and underscores that Article 5 of the Mutual Security Treaty applies to the Senkaku Islands. The disputed islands outside Japanese territorial waters are also claimed by Beijing.
The statement also adds a formal mention of space in the long-standing security treaty, making clear that, quote, attacks to, from, and within space could trigger the mutual defense provisions of the treaty, according to an administration fact sheet. This had previously been outside the scope of the agreement.
Japan also said it would soon begin constructing a pair of runways on the small southern island of Mageshima, where the two militaries are to conduct joint exercises, including those of F-35B stealth fighters, amphibious operations, and missile interception beginning around 2027.
So, this all sounds really good, and the US-Japan alliance is one of the strongest alliances in the world. I have some friends, though, in Okinawa, and I guarantee you they're not happy about all this news of increased military activity and presence down there.
Well, it sounds like, they're going to shift some of the exercises to this uninhabited island where it may or may not be close to, places where people live. I, for one, just would like to reiterate my previous statement that I would really love it if the U.S. military would stop flying those goddamn helicopters over Omotesando. There is no reason they need to be doing that. Drive!
Have you looked into this? Is it like VIPs they're like escorting?
I have no idea, but it pisses me off because it's so loud and it's never one, it's like 5.
Oh man, yeah. No, I've heard him too in and around here in Tokyo. I always assume it's just like VIPs or something, but maybe it is some military thing.
I just bet it's a bunch of guys in Yokosuka being like, "Oh, we had a couple of beers at Chili's, let's get the chopper and go over to Roppongi."
I mean, dude, if you had the ability to just fly a chopper all around Tokyo, wouldn't you do it like as much as you can?
I think that's what they're doing, dude.
Yo, man, let's drink in Yokosuka, get in the chopper, and just... I don't know, where else do they go? Where's another location?
Well, I mean, obviously the place that they want to go is Roppongi, so...
Wow, do they have a landing spot in Roppongi?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay.
It's like all walled off, and there's a big this is a U.S. military installation.
I had no idea.
Yeah, there's a big helicopter heliport there.
Damn, I mean, if I was stationed here, I'd probably want to do that every day. Yep,
and they do. Not quite every day, but it seems to happen often on Fridays. I don't know. You've heard the choppers, right?
Oh, no, for sure. They're very loud. Yeah,
and it's always on Friday.
Yeah.
I mean, don't you think that's a little bit suspicious?
For sure.
It's not on Monday. It's not on Tuesday. It's not on Wednesday. It's not even on Thursday. It's on Friday.
All right, up next, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company considering to build second chip plant in Japan.
Kyodo News has reported that the chief executive officer of Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC, which is way shorter, said on January 12th that the company is considering to build a second chip plant in Japan, following an $8.6 billion factory currently under construction in Kumamoto Prefecture.
TSMC is also evaluating the possibility of a plant in Europe. CEO Wei said at a press conference amid increasing calls for a more geographically diverse supply chain.
Wei stated that customers' requests and support from the Japanese government would be critical factors when making a decision on the second factory in Japan, which is a very CEO-like way of saying, "Hey, Japanese government, how about you bankroll this one too?"
The upbeat comments on production came as the world's largest contract chip maker the same day reported record earnings for 2022, driven by solid demand for chips for 5G network equipment and personal computers.
Yeah, I got that 5G implanted in me like at least 3 times.
Oh yeah, when I was in the States, man, I had so much 5G. 5G injection.
Yeah, I actually need to get my 4th injection of 5G.
Oh really? I'm on my 5th. I got the 5th one in the US.
Lucky.
Yeah. It feels great.
Man, my reception sucks.
Man, I could just close my eyes and I could see everything. You know? Like I could see the whole network.
So it's like the metaverse, but it doesn't suck.
Yeah, it's chips, man. It's chips in your brain. And like you can just see and just hear everything.
More chips? Well, TSMC is going to give us even more chips.
5G terror, you know?
Yeah, 5G Plus.
Yeah.
5G Pro Max.
The 5G Pro Max Plus, I think, is the one that's coming out next.
And it's got like 5 cameras.
5, yeah. When you're in the network.
On your forehead, right?
Yeah, and they're all 360 degrees, and you can just see everywhere in the network when you close your eyes. Kind of like the Matrix.
Cool. The chipmaker said its net profit soared 70.4% from 2021 to an all-time high of 33.5 billion USD as sales jumped 42.6% to a record 74 billion USD last year.
This is no surprise because, I mean, the whole world wants chips right now. It's like one of the most in-demand things. So, yeah.
Second only to dip.
Dip?
You know, if you get chips, you gotta have dip.
Ah, yes, that kind of dip. Exactly.
I'm not talking about Copenhagen. I know you're in Florida for a while now.
The plant TSMC is constructing in Kikuyo, Kumamoto Prefecture plans to hire a total of about 1,700 people, including some 320 people on loan from TSMC.
Wei said his company aims to begin production at the Kumamoto plant in late December 2024, but stopped short of elaborating on the potential second plant.
Sony Group and major Japanese auto parts maker Denso are also investing in the Kumamoto factory, along with financial aid from the Japanese government.
TSMC is considering the second plant as the Japanese government is stepping up efforts to bolster supply chains for critical components, such as semiconductors, to improve its economic security.
And to make more PS5s.
Yeah, that would be good too.
Wei said the global chip market is expected to shrink by about 4% this year. Yikes. But TSMC's advanced technology will help the company maintain solid earnings.
Chief Financial Officer Wendell Huang said that the chipmaker will cut capital spending to a range of 32 to 36 billion this year from 36.3 billion in 2022 as global inflation and intensifying competition from rivals have created an unclear business environment.
Well, this is good news. More business coming to Japan, specifically semiconductors, which Japan used to be the king of, you know, and still is to a certain extent.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see how geopolitics has so deeply influenced these moves in the global supply chain.
For sure.
And up next, suspected sperm whale that swam into Osaka Bay dies.
The Mainichi has reported that an approximately 8-meter-long whale was spotted in the West Japan waters of Osaka Bay on January 9th, and subsequently was found to have died.
At around 8 o'clock a.m. on January the 9th, a person using the Nakajima parking area along the Hanshin Expressway in the city of Osaka's Nishiyodogawa ward reported seeing something like a whale spouting water from its, quote, blowhole, to the Japan Coast Guard's Osaka Coast Guard office. The office confirmed that one whale about 8 meters in length was indeed in the bay and spouting water from its, quote, blowhole, some 350 meters south of the parking area near the mouth of the Nakashima River.
An Osaka Aquarium Kaiyukan official stated, "It isn't common for whales to get lost and end up in Osaka Bay. the whale may have gotten lost while chasing prey. It isn't common for whales to get lost and end up in Osaka Bay. The whale may have gotten lost while chasing prey.
Unfortunately, later on January 13th, the Osaka municipal government confirmed that the whale had died.
The whale, believed to be a sperm whale, had remained motionless for the past couple of days, and the city of Osaka sent its employees and experts to check on it on the morning of January 13th.
I gotta ask, because I don't know, like, how do you check whether a sperm whale is dead or not? Do you, like, poke it, or?
I was just about to say poke it with a stick.
Oh, it's dead.
It's got to be gigantic, so maybe...
We poked it 10 times, Sarge.
You know, or just, you know, lay flat on it and flail your arms. Like, just kind of give it a nice little slap to try to wake it up. But this is a thing, you know, I've seen a lot of videos and pictures of whales, like, washing up on shores. I mean, that's not how this happened, right?
No. I mean, it was spouting water from its blowhole.
Yeah.
So it was alive, but it did not remain alive.
Yeah. Sperm whales are, like, gigantic, right?
Yeah, 8 meters, though, is small. Like, I mean, sperm whales are like, 18-wheeler, massive truck size plus, right?
Yeah, a large male can grow up to 18 meters. So yeah, the book Moby Dick is about a sperm whale.
Word.
For those who like to read books. I think most of us had to read that book, during, like, elementary or middle school, right?
I grew up in Tennessee. They don't teach you how to read in Tennessee.
Forgot about that, yeah.
Yeah. We use picture books.
Nice.
There's some words, but nobody reads them.
Yeah.
According to the Fisheries Agency, if a whale is washed up on land, there is a response manual on how to handle it for the local government where it was found. However, there is no set procedure for handling dead whales that are floating in the water. Guess they didn't think about that contingency, eh? The city of Osaka will discuss the matter with related parties to determine what to do with the whale.
So it's just sitting there in the water and they're having discussions on what to do with it?
Whale burgers.
For those who don't know, Japanese eat everything that's in the water, so...
Yeah.
Whale is on the menu at a lot of places.
I have to say, though, and I apologize because even though we riffed on it a little bit, I mean, they don't call them sperm whales for fun. They've got a lot of that, stuff in them.
Is that what they're blowing at that blowhole?
No, it's water.
Sorry.
Gross, dude.
I had to ask. You kept saying blowhole, and I'm thinking, is this alluding to something?
No, but they call it a blowfish because it gets really big, right? They call it a sperm whale because it has a lot of sperm inside of it.
Oh, wow.
And so if they're not careful, it's not going to be like an oil spill, but there might be like a whole bunch of sperm whale sperm in Osaka Bay, which I don't know how hard that would be to clean up, but
so
that makes some pretty funny helicopter footage.
I'm not sure if reading this is okay, but for I typed in on Google, do sperm whales have, and then the autocomplete was a lot of sperm. A lot of people are looking this up. Each ejaculation is believed to contain around 20 liters of semen.
Let me redo that, actually. Wow.
So, I mean, yeah, as you said, they didn't name it the sperm whale for nothing.
Yep. And now Osaka's got to figure out what to do with it.
I want to make dirty jokes, but we're PG-13 here.
Sometimes R, but not X. So this week we're going to do something a little different for our main segment because, as Aaron mentioned earlier, he just got back from a month-long trip to Orlando, Florida, the home of Walt Disney World and a hell of a lot of gators, after having not left Japan for over 3 years. And as I still haven't been able to get back to the US post-pandemic, I have some questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Tokyo Wave.
So, Aaron, first of all, after not having been on an airplane in 3 years, what was it like? Did you get the stereotypical paranoia that you might catch the Rona on your flight over or on the way back?
So traveling from Japan to the US, no paranoia at all about coronavirus. I mean, everyone was masked up. Everyone wore a mask the entire flight. The bathrooms are very clean. You know, traveling from Japan to the US was great. The other way around was complete opposite. You know, first of all, in Florida and most parts of the US, no one is wearing a mask. Or, you know, maybe like, 5-10% of people, generally speaking, like if you're in a large crowded area, will have a mask on. The flight back, no one had a mask on. And there was like, people were coughing and like, it was actually the first time I was back in the States for a month and didn't have any paranoia at all because no one's talking about COVID. I got my booster and everything and like I felt great and like didn't really worry. I still wore a mask though when I was going into supermarkets and like Walmart in Florida because, if you're going to get it.
I thought that could get you shot.
Yeah. So bulletproof vest and a mask.
Okay.
Yeah. Got to make sure you have those too. But no, the only time I really had some paranoia, and to be honest with you, some disgust was on the flight back. I flew Delta, which was amazing. It was like one of the smoothest flights I've ever flown. I flew, from the Northeast all the way to Japan, 13-hour flight. It was so damn smooth though. Delta rocks. Their pilots are amazing. But the people on the plane were really gross, man. Like, I was like, man, these people are going to Japan? Or maybe they were just connecting and going somewhere else.
Hope so. If they were gross.
Yeah, and when I say gross, I mean like, just lots of coughing, and just people like constantly touching their face. When people are sniffing snot back and they're like wiping their nose with their hand, and no one has a mask on. It actually drove me kind of insane. I was like one of the only people with a mask on. So.
Yeah, that sounds pretty not fun. And you're lucky, man, because like literally half of the people who I know who went back to the States over the holidays got COVID.
Oh, yeah. Me too. Like everyone that I've talked to who's traveled back over the past 3 years has gotten COVID. I would say like 70-80% of my friends and people I know. They might not get it immediately, but while they're back, they go out to a bar or whatever. When I was back, I wore my mask when I went out. And, no one, even though I was in Florida, which is like a very contentious area where there's a lot of division politically, and like people with masks, like people will openly call you out and say crap to you. No one said anything to me, but any time I was in an area where there was like more than 10 people in a room, I definitely had a mask on.
Yeah, it seems like a good idea.
No, for sure. And yeah, I didn't catch corona. I don't have any symptoms now. I flew a few days ago and I feel fine. So I'm confident that I'm all right.
You dodged the bullet. So now that we've gotten done talking about the most obvious thing, once you got over there to Orlando, Florida, home of Walt Disney World, what were you up to?
So honestly, I think the pandemic has changed, obviously, a lot of human behavior, and that like, if I would have visited Florida prior to COVID, in 2019, a lot of people were going out to bars. A lot of people were just very, very active. But, even my friends who lived there, and a lot of friends from out of state who live in New York City or Denver, they, flew back to Orlando to be with their families for Christmas and all that. People weren't really going out and doing a whole lot. There was a lot of staying inside. Actually, some of those out of state friends got COVID in Florida. The funny thing is, I actually was looking up COVID data. Florida stopped reporting. It was a mandate from the governor to stop reporting on COVID cases. So like no one's allowed to report. So if you look up Florida, it just says 0 for like the past like 6 months or so.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, it's really bad in Japan. I didn't even know it was bad in Japan until I got back. I wasn't paying attention at all. But yeah, to answer your question, a lot of the kind of like social activity has really gone down a lot. I mean, lots of, meetups with friends at restaurants, spending time with family, and kind of like, I'd say in a very bubbly environment. Most of the people that I was with, everyone was like, triple, quadruple vaxxed, whatever. So not really worried about COVID or like kind of out of sight, out of mind kind of thing.
Interesting. But yeah, that's sort of different than what I was expecting because, you see these, pictures of, people back out and doing stuff. So I just have this image of just everyone in America is just like, pretending like it doesn't exist and
like the spring breakers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're a different kind of American that especially likes to catch pandemic viruses. But
I would say even my friends and family that I know that are a little bit more, how do I say this? They're not so into the idea of vaccines. They're cautious as well. Everything. A lot of people have adopted this, kind of cautionary, habitual behavior, which is great. I didn't really ever feel worried about COVID while I was back there. Yeah, not at all.
Yeah. So I guess top tip, if you're going to America, wear a mask. You'll probably not get COVID.
Only on the plane ride back from, I flew from Detroit to Tokyo.
What were you smoking when you chose that flight?
Well, it was a pretty good connection with Delta. It's actually compared to like Atlanta, dude, Florida is so far away from Japan. It's insane. I'm so jealous of people who live in like LA and they can like it's a 9-10 hour flight or, Portland, Seattle. But yeah, what is it? Atlanta, I think is a 14-hour flight, and just 14 hours on a plane, man, is crazy.
Yeah, I always go through Atlanta just because it's so close to my hometown. But
if you can sleep on the plane, it's good.
Yeah. No, I mean, I always it's always a contest. How many of those mini bottles can I abscond with?
No, for sure.
Are those still free on international flights? They make you pay for them now.
Okay, so this is another thing. Going from Japan to the States is an amazing experience as a customer. Alcohol is mostly free, or like if you just ask for stuff, they just don't charge you. All of my bags were overweight. I checked them before, and I was ready to pay the overweightage fees because I was going back with like, souvenirs and like presents for my family. They didn't charge me at Haneda Airport anything. And then, on the plane, they give you free alcohol. But then coming back, like when I'm at, freaking Orlando, Florida, checking all my bags, have to pay all the overweightage fees. They charge you everything. They've got like the credit card scanners ready on the domestic flight and the international flight. It's a very different experience going to and from. Wow.
That's you got like the typical Japanese airport experience and the typical American airport experience.
Exactly.
It's diverse.
For sure.
Same airline. Yeah, it's actually funny. When I flew back in the land before time, I would always make a point if like one of my bags got broken or something bad happened or, anything that warranted some sort of a complaint to the airline, I would never do it in America. Always do it in Japan.
100%.
Like this is like a, Japan resident top tip. Mm-hmm. Don't bother complaining about anything in America because they don't care.
Not my problem.
And if you try to call the call center, it is going to drive you crazy and waste your time. But if you, on the way back, obviously, getting off of a plane, you want to get out of the airport as quickly as possible. But if you go to usually the departures counter and explain the situation, you fill out a sheet and they take great care of you, almost 100% of the time.
Oh yeah. Parker, kind of a funny story. When I landed though, back here in Tokyo just 2 nights ago, before you come back to Japan, they have a new app. It's like a Travel Japan app. Visit Japan. I forgot the name of it. Anyways, everyone knows because the airlines make you fill it out before you get on the plane. You have to have it filled out. It's really simple. You fill it out. You send them a picture of your vaccination certification if you're triple vaxxed. Theoretically, you're triple vaxxed. You get the approval on the app. The app turns blue, and then you can just get into the country. So they say. But when I arrived, I was greeted by this gigantically long hallway. Like in Haneda, when you arrive, they usually have the moving, what are those, the horizontally moving escalators?
Yeah,
Moving walkways. All the moving walkways are shut down, and the entire length of the area that you have to walk is filled with probably 50 to 70 Japanese, I want to call them not employees, but probably volunteers, almost like Olympic volunteers. And every single one of them has to look at your cell phone that has the blue approval on it. So before I came back, I'm like, man, Japan, this is awesome. They're catching up, they've got an app. I sent in my docs. I got approved in 4 hours. So efficient. This is great. And when I boarded the plane too, they took my picture. It's all photo recognition now. They're using pretty advanced stuff. That's awesome. But then I'm meted by 70 people that all have to see my blue approval thing on my phone. The redundancy. The first 10 people or so, I was laughing. I'm like, oh, this is so funny. I'm back in Japan. This is so goofy. They're like, yeah, please, show me the blue thing, blue screen on your phone. After 10 people, not just me, I heard people around me. This guy from London was like, this is so inefficient. Why are they doing this here? And I thought the same thing to myself. I don't know if you can picture what I'm saying, but it's just this gigantic hallway.
It's not like you just hold out your phone you're walking down the red carpet at the Oscars and you just kind of they actually you have to stop at each person.
So that they can they do a visual check. They look at you and they look at the phone.
Whoa.
Yeah, dude. It was insane. And also everyone's got all their carry-on luggage. So it's not like you can easily hold up your phone and pass everyone, right?
Right.
It's you've got to and I feel so physically fatigued, trying to hold up my phone.
Right.
And finally they gave me a pink piece of paper. And then I had a pink piece of paper and the phone that had the blue thing. And some guys were like, oh, you have the pink piece of paper, but you didn't show me your phone. And I'm like, oh my God. So then I had to show the pink piece of paper and my phone. This is all before you get to the arrival section, the very first section. Right? So that was kind of ridiculous.
Welcome back to Japan, Aaron.
Exactly. I heard other people complaining, and I wanted to say to them, welcome to Japan, guys.
We've got green tea and onsen's, too.
Yeah.
So, obviously, you went to America. You're from America. And you went back several times pre-COVID, and you've been back now in post-COVID America. What was that like? How did you feel the gap, pre and post-COVID?
So when I arrived in Detroit, I had a 5 or 6 hour layover, and I was just sitting there watching people walk by, looking at the news, and I realized we've missed a lot in America, right? The end of the Trump presidency, the Black Lives Matter movement, the whole January 6th thing, and I'm not trying to be on one side or the other. I'm just saying that these are big kind of American historical events that have happened over the past 2 or 3 years, and we've missed all of it. So America has gone through all this stuff, including COVID, and we haven't been there. So it was very different being back. Post-COVID America is a very strange place. I felt a lot of distance from certain people when I was back there. Not just politically. It's not just a political thing. I think there's a lot of other stuff going on too that I can't quite articulate or put my finger on exactly what it is. But there's a lot of influence on people now. People are extremely, it's like a fever dream in America of influence from all different angles. And some of it is political, but some of it's also like corporate, and they're trying to influence people to think one way or the other. A lot of friends have become very paranoid, not just about COVID, but about everything. They think like, this is the end of America. We have no form of governance that is working. Other people don't think about it at all. Those are the people that I hung out with mostly, that were just, carefree and focusing on their jobs and like what they're doing, maybe with their own business or something like that. But there's huge division politically in America right now. But the division is really exacerbated by, I think, a lot of like advertising and like influence on everyone's thinking. I would say that like some of my friends like have literal symptoms of paranoid schizophrenia. They're not a paranoid schizophrenic, but they have the symptoms of a paranoid schizophrenic just because they've been sitting in Orlando, Florida for the past 3 years. You know what I mean?
No, I don't actually.
I mean, like,
but it's I can sort of visualize it. Like, I have had some conversations with my friends back home, and it really does feel like there's a big difference. Like even two of my friends who used to be like best of best friends had a huge falling out. Mm-hmm. And I think they're still not talking to each other.
Yeah, unfortunately, this time going back, I had to stop talking to certain people because, like, this time going back, I had a falling out with some people, or rather, I just had to distance myself from certain people, and I don't mean to use paranoid schizophrenia in a negative context. It's a real disease, and my family works in medicine, so they a lot of their patients have this. But I think a lot of Americans' brains have just been like fried, especially the Americans that don't have any access to information or people outside of America, if that makes sense. Like people who are just, in the countryside or, Florida, outside of Orlando, any direction is the countryside. And a lot of people are just in this bubble. They don't really think about other countries. They don't really think about the fact that America's pretty far away from a lot of places like Asia and Europe, and like what's going on in those places. You get news blips of like random crap that's like going on in like, another country, like 3 seconds. And then up next is cooking tips with Sandy. It's the news is so weird in the US. I think Japan and NHK, I never thought I'd say this. I think Japan and NHK do a great job of really reporting on global events and really deep diving into them.
Yeah,
it's
actually funny. My parents started watching NHK World, and once you get over the fact that it's pretty dry, they do a really good job of reporting on the news, and the news,
absolutely,
the actual news, the sort of stuff that you would want to watch on a global news program.
In America, like with all the news channels, man, I usually don't watch TV when I go back to the States because it drives me crazy. But I was intrigued because I hung out with some of my friends that I felt like their brains were just fried from being in America for too long and everything that's happened over the past 3 years. But the stuff and programming on TVs now is just all like Dr. Phil, Judge Judy, just it's kind of just a lot of garbage. And then, down in Florida, injury attorneys are huge. So like everyone is trying to sue someone because they slipped and fell inside of like some random coffee shop, or some guy gave them like an ugly look at, at a car dealership, or some stupid crap.
Actually, one thing I look forward to when I go back to America is if I watch like local TV, there's this one like shop that like, we buy gold. It's called Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. And they've got like the cheesiest, most glitzy, over the top commercials. Yeah. And I love it. And sometimes he does like these like infomercials. And this guy, he is a local legend. Like, oh my God. And there's so much cool stuff in his shop because like, just people come in there and sell it, and then he sells it. Or if it's crap, he melts it. But
I wish I saw more of that kind of stuff. Like I was saying earlier, kind of like shows that are trying to influence people or just frying people's brains seem to be all that was available.
That's TV. I usually just watch children's TV. It's the only thing I can like feel safe watching.
Oh yeah, with my nephew. I mean, that's all we watched. And honestly, that was a lot better than the regular TV.
Yeah, American's children's TV, they've really upped the bar on that.
Coco Melon. I think I watched Toy Story like 20 times with my nephew.
Not 21?
Maybe 21.
Okay. Well, so obviously everyone is still wearing masks here in Tokyo, and I, of course, hear, and you just told me that no one is wearing masks over in Florida, or honestly speaking, most of the Western world. Did you feel good without the social pressure to wear a mask everywhere like we have here in Japan, or did it kind of, freak you out a little bit? Also, now that you're back, do you think that Japan needs to quit the mask wearing thing, or do you think that it's still necessary and useful?
I think Japan should definitely keep what they're doing, keep the masks on. I will say, when I was back in the States, I got used to not wearing a mask. The first week, I was a little, worried about not wearing it all the time because I'm so used to wearing it anytime I leave my apartment here in Japan. But the air is so nice, like especially in Florida. It's really, and some parts of Tokyo too, like the breeze and everything. It's beautiful. Wearing a mask, you can't experience all that, So I really got used to just like breathing in the air. And honestly, on the flight back, I had to force myself to wear a mask. And even the past couple of days back in Tokyo, having to wear a mask everywhere, I'm really not used to it. I got used to not wearing a mask. And it kind of sucks. I'm not going to lie.
But you think it's a good idea?
Yeah, I think people should still wear masks here for sure.
Yeah, and COVID levels in Tokyo haven't been the best.
No, it's really bad. I don't know. I think wearing masks definitely have helped Japan for a long time. Not just with COVID, but with the flu as well, because the flu was rampant when the month before I went back in the States, and a lot of people were dying from that. So it's helped people avoid a lot of certain illnesses. But there's a lot of etiquette I think that people don't really follow whenever even if they are wearing masks. Like if you get Uber Eats. And we've talked about this before. If you get Uber Eats like delivered to you, you get the Uber Eats, take it out of the bag, you wash your hands, because someone was just touching. There's a lot of these exchanges where I think you need to wash your hands and just do basic stuff like that. And definitely in America, like no one's following those, rules. But here in Japan, I'd like to think that a lot of people are following it. But yeah, I'm not sure if that's connected to the recent upsurge in COVID cases in Japan.
Yeah, I mean, I think around the world, people are really letting their guard down. Obviously,
yes.
Some more than others. And
chin diapers.
Yeah.
As they say on South Park. But.
Yep. So I guess I do think we'll continue to see mask wearing here in Japan for the foreseeable future, no matter what the government says, just because people have gotten used to it.
No, for sure, for sure.
Whether that's a good thing, an all right thing, a bad thing, no comment. But yeah,
I had gotten used to it as well. I mean, before I left, I wore a mask everywhere that I went. You know, even if I was just like walking to the conveni, whatever, like my local, you know, always had a mask on.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I feel like it's unnecessary, but I also don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
So
I forgot my mask one time, and I was that guy, and everyone was kind of staring at me in the supermarket.
yeah, I don't want to be that guy. So.
Yeah.
So now that you're back in Japan after a month of cheeseburgers and chasing gators with assault rifles, what does it feel like to be back in Tokyo? Do you have any reverse culture shock?
Well, you know, I'm kind of reminded of a lot of stuff that I discovered about Tokyo the past 5 years, and that like we've had a lot of conversations about this, that Japan has a lot of redundancy and does a lot of inefficient stuff. At the same time, people are so damn... At the same time, customer service in Japan is so freaking amazing, you know? So I'd say the reverse culture shock is, you know, like I took a taxi back from the airport, and the guy helped carry all my luggage up to, you know, where I live in my apartment to the door. And I forgot my cell phone in the taxi. So I didn't even know, because I was so freaking out of it. And he came back like, you know, 2 minutes later, he's like, "You forgot your cell phone." And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. You know, like I tried to tip the guy too, but he wouldn't take the money. You know, I forgot. You have to be really aggressive when you try to tip in Japan and like kind of force them to take it. But yeah, I mean, customer service here is incredible. That's really nice. You know, a lot of people in America are like, what's it like living in Japan? You know, like, and I never know how to answer that question, because I think I've been here so long, I'm so used to it. But you know, one of the biggest things, man, and you know, when I was shopping in America, you know, like if we're at a store shopping and we need some help, there's no one to help. I mean, some stores are really good and they pride themselves on having staff that are well trained and, you know, providing good customer service to like help people find what product they're looking for or whatever. But that's not the norm. That's the exception.
Yeah, that's like if you're looking for $1,000 pair of shoes, people will help you. You know,
Yeah.
If you're at the Foot Locker, good luck.
I mean, if you're in Japan and you're looking for freaking like 100 something, someone will help you. Like,
Oh yeah, I mean, I go to the conveni or the 100 yen store all the time and be like, "Where's this?" And they will lead you to it.
oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
incredible. It's incredible.
And like, you know, if you tried to do that in America, I'm sure they'd look at you like, "Figure it out, dumbass."
Yeah. You know, there was some weird stuff that happened on the plane ride back from America to Japan, not just the gross people, but there were lots of Japanese on the flight, and Japanese people don't speak up. You know what I mean? The flight attendant actually missed our row when they were asking for drinks. And I only spoke up when I saw another flight attendant, but the other two Japanese people sitting next to me, they didn't speak up. And I heard one of the flight attendants say like, "What happened here? You guys just didn't order drinks?" Like, and she said it out loud, but like, I think she was just like thinking she said what she was thinking. And she was thinking like, why would these people not speak up? You know what I mean? But that's just the huge culture difference, you know, because in Japan, you don't speak up. You expect like, you know, that, you know, someone would get you a drink or figure out that, you know, there was an issue or whatever, you know, and I don't think we should take advantage of that, you know, but I really appreciate it. I appreciate it so much. And especially after going back to the States and coming back here, I appreciate it even more. And I think I did too when I would travel like more frequently before COVID, but this time I'm really like, okay, yeah, this is really nice.
Yeah, I mean, Japanese customer service will ruin you.
Yeah.
It will. It really will.
Like you go to any other country and like, it's just like, oh man, you always think of I was always talking about examples. Like I would be out with my dad. I'm like, "Dad, you don't understand. If we were in Japan, there'd be like 6 people running up to help us. Like, you know, when we're at like some department store or something, you know?"
Yeah. And it's like, you're at a department store in America. It's like, there's like nobody around. It's like,
there's nobody around. You know, Also, it depends, if you go down to like Miami, it's really, really bad. Like, you'll ask someone like at a store, like, I'm looking for blah, blah, blah. That's not my department, like,
Yeah.
so it's like no answer, no solution. Please get out of the store. It's almost, kind of like
get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. Who do you think you are to ask for help?
Wow.
Yeah.
So, anything else you noticed or want to mention in closing?
No, I think we went through a lot of it, and I am just glad to be back in Japan.
Welcome back, Aaron. It was very weird not doing a podcast for a month. I think this is the first month-long break we've had since the beginning of Tokyo Wave.
You're right.
Yeah,
we've been in such a habit of doing this.
Yeah, it's like drugs. Once you start, you just can't stop.
Yeah. It's great to be back.
And it's great to have you back, Aaron. I couldn't do it without you because I don't know how to plug in the audio capture device.
Have to make a manual to.
Maybe you can work with the Osaka people. They're working on a manual too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's for sperm whales, not connecting audio capture devices.
Who knows? You never know where business can come from.
Yeah. There's a company that makes manuals, like this massive Japanese company. All they do is make manuals.
One of my friends used to work maybe for this company or a similar company. She was a translator, and she translated Japanese into Chinese. She was Chinese, and like she used to just like talk about how much she deeply hated her job because it's translating manuals all day. So
that sounds like a very not fun thing to do.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week. Hey, listeners, that's right. You listener right there.
Who do you think should be our next guest on Tokyo Wave? Let us know. Drop us a line at wave@tokyowave.jp.
We hope you enjoyed Tokyo Wave.
If you haven't already, you can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube.
Join us again next week on Tokyo Wave.